Jai Shri Radhe. Sab Vaishnavan ko sadar rasa prem. Jai Shri Krishna. This is day 33 of the readings of the 252 Vaishnava Varta, the Vaishnava disciples of Sri Gosaiji. Day 33, continuing with the Varta of Manik Chandra, which is Varta 12. Jai Shri Radhe. Bhav Prakash. A doubt may arise here. King Bali also made an offering to the Lord, and he took nothing back. Manik Chand took money out of his offering to make business with, and in this way paid off the loan. How could this be called an offering? Because King Bali made his offerings according to the ways of the path of lawful limitations. The Lord accepted and took the offerings. Things that are thus offered and can never be taken back. In the case of Manik Chand, he made the offerings according to the ways of the path of grace, with love only. It was done in the same way that, in the world, a master and his servant should interact. Sri Acharyaji has written in his Siddhant Rahasya treatise, therefore, at the start of any undertaking, everything should be offered up. The teachings that which has been given all belongs to the Lord and cannot ever be accepted as his prasad belongs to another path. The higher realization is perfected, just as in the world, a servant perfects his relationship with his master. Therefore, Manik Chand borrowed money as if it were a worldly transaction, and that too under Sri Gosaiji's instruction. His dedication was thus perfected, and this is the way to look at this. Part 2. This story is taken from Krishna Bhatt's book. Once it was the wedding of Manik Chand's son. Manik Chand wrote an invitation to Sri Gosaiji and then welcomed him into his home. Sri Gosaiji came to Agra from Gokul. After some days it was Sri Gokulnathji's birthday. Sri Gosaiji wrote and sent a letter to Sri Giridharji in Gokul saying, "Please make the arrangement for the celebration of Vallabh's, Sri Gokulnathji's birthday. I will return after this wedding." When the wedding was over, Sri Gosaiji took his leave of Manik Chand and went back to Gokul. So great was Sri Gosaiji's grace upon Manik Chand. And thus concludes Varta 12, the story of Manik Chand and his wife, who were great recipients of Sri Gosaiji's grace and accomplished Vaishnavas. In truth, there is no end to their story. Varta 13, the story of a Brahmin who lived in Bengal and was a cloth trader. Bhav Prakash. He is a devotee with a tamasi disposition. In the eternal Leela, his name is Anandini. She manifests from Ratikala and is a form of her divine loving sentiment. The Brahmin was born in a village in Bengal. He was married when he was 11 years old. His wife was not a divine soul, thus unrelated to the divine Leela. His father died when he was about 25 years old, and that was when he started to trade in cloth. Part 1. One time the Bengali came to Mathura for business, accompanied by a lot of business people. These businessmen used to go to Delhi, where the king lived in order to sell cloth. The Bengali joined them in such business dealings. He was capable Brahmin, and he was able to support himself on the business he did in Mathura, and so he resided there. In that group there were some Vaishnavas, and they were going to Gokul to have the sight of Sri Gosaiji. The Brahmin went with them. He had the sight of Sri Gosaiji along with the others. The Brahmin resolved to become Sri Gosaiji's disciple. He supplicated Sri Gosaiji, "O Maharaj, please accept me as your servant." Sri Gosaiji made him bathe and then initiated him with the name and Brahma Sambandha. Afterwards he went to Delhi to sell cloth. On completing the trading, he returned to Bengal, taking earnings with him. An idea sprang up in his heart to use the wealth to buy most special cloth and send it to Sri Gosaiji to make a garment for him to wear. He obtained a length of cloth of the very best quality, which cost 250 rupees. Then there was a tax of 150 rupees. Only then was he able to bring the cloth out of the town. He rolled up the cloth and hid it in a hollow bamboo tube, and using it as a walking stick left the town. He took his wife with him. Bhav Prakash. Why? He wanted to have his wife initiated by Sri Gosaiji. Part 1 continued. The security men who stood at the town gates thought that he was just a Brahmin who was going along for his bath. He had taken the roll of cloth out of his house and gone on his way. He arrived in Gokul after some days and bowed to Sri Gosaiji. He took the cloth out of the bamboo and placed it in front of Sri Gosaiji. He was very pleased by it. He said, "This cloth would be very nice for Srinathji." Bhav Prakash. Why? Because the Lord alone may enjoy things of the very highest quality. Therefore one should only offer him the finest items. This is the duty of a good servant. Part 1 continued. At that very moment he called the tailor and had him make a garment for Srinathji. It was ready on that very day. Taking that garment with him, Sri Gosaiji set off early the next morning together with the husband and wife, and they went to Srinathadwara. Sri Gosaiji bathed, went up the mountain and entered Srinathji's temple. He had his holy sight and then offered him his lunchtime meal. After the time for the meal elapsed, he accepted the offerings back as prasad and then opened the doors of the temple. The Brahmin experienced great love as he had the holy sight of Srinathji. On the next day, Sri Gosaiji offered the new garment to Sri. The next day, they offered the garment to Sri Gosaiji. When the Bengali Brahmin Vaishnav had the holy sight of Srinathji, he was overjoyed. After completing Srinathji's Seva, Sri Gosaiji came down from the mountain. The Brahmin bowed to Sri Gosaiji over and over, considering his life purpose to have been fulfilled. He then requested Sri Gosaiji, "O Maharaj, please initiate my wife." Sri Gosaiji explained to him that she was not a divine soul, therefore he would only give her the first name initiation. He did so. Then the Brahmin began to think, that very special cloth has been offered to Srinathji. I should now bring some more cloth of the same quality so that Sri Gosaiji may also wear a garment made from it. Then my life will have been successful. Thinking thus, he took his leave of Sri Gosaiji and went back to his homeland of Bengal. The couple took a few days to reach home. Some days later, the Brahmin announced to his wife, "Let's beg to survive. If any money comes from trading, then we will save it." His wife objected. "We are surviving very nicely on the money you make from trading, so where do you get this idea from?" He replied, "None of these folk give up their way of making a living, so why would we give up? Our best way to earn is to beg, so why should we leave this?" The Brahmin did not reveal his intention to her. Translator's note. The normal way for Brahmins at that time was to take alms from the community according to strict rules. He wanted to use the earnings from his trading to buy another roll of cloth. Bhav Prakash. Why? Because her mindset was worldly. People of a worldly mindset do not understand divine ways, and so one should never reveal such matters to them, because this will only lead to conflict. This is the principle here. Part 1 continued. So the Brahmin began to live from begging. Soon enough money came in for the Brahmin to buy another roll of special cloth. He went and purchased the cloth and brought it to Gokul in the same way as before. He arrived after a few days and bowed low to Sri Gosaiji. He presented the cloth to him. Seeing that Sri Gosaiji announced one Vaishnav previously brought such a roll of cloth, it was offered to and accepted by Srinathji. The Bengali Vaishnav bowed down to Sri Gosaiji and said, "I was the one who had brought that roll of cloth." Sri Gosaiji was delighted with him. He began to hand the cloth over to his personal servant, but the Bengali Brahmin interjected. He bowed low and said, "O Maharaj, that first cloth was accepted by Srinathji. Would you yourself now please accept this one? After seeing you wearing the cloth, we will return home." Sri Gosaiji replied, "Sri Thakurji can accept these excellent offerings over and over again. I don't usually accept them. It is only through the likes of you that such items as you have brought come here. Otherwise, who would be able to bring such special things? This roll of cloth is worthy of being offered in the temple." The Vaishnava again said, "This is the Lord's house. There is no shortage of anything, but I would still like you to accept some garments made from this roll of cloth. When I have seen you wearing them, I will return home." Sri Gosaiji called the tailor and had many garments sewn for Srinathji, and after that he had something made for himself. Bhav Prakash. A servant should never enjoy anything, especially something of the best quality, without first offering it to his lord and master. Otherwise it will be an obstacle in this devotional path. Part 1 continued. The Bengali Vaishnava was very happy. The tailor sewed the garments and brought them there. Sri Gosaiji dressed Srinathji in one of them, and after finishing the temple service and taking his prasad, and after a short rest, he wore the other one and came to sit in his betak. The Vaishnava was overjoyed to see this. For as long as the Vaishnava stayed in Gokul, Sri Gosaiji made a point of wearing it every day for a while. After quite some days, the Vaishnava took his leave from Sri Gosaiji and set off back to his own part of the country. Sri Gosaiji asked him before he left, "What business do you do in Bengal?" He told Sri Gosaiji everything about his life, and Sri Gosaiji was pleased with his condition. Then the Vaishnava addressed Sri Gosaiji, "O Maharaj, I had heard that you are known as the one who fulfills his devotees' desires. Now I have experienced this for myself. I have seen the truth in this name. If you give your permission, please may I go home now?" Sri Gosaiji was very happy and saw him off. The Brahmin reached his home in Bengal after a few days. On the day he reached home, it was the day he should have to worship his dead father. The previous day his wife had obtained some urad dal, white lentils, and some oil. She soaked the lentils, and then ground them and prepared some little dumplings. The Brahmin arrived home at this time. His wife saw him and said, "It is good that you have come today home. Today is your father's celebration. I have prepared some dumplings. She called him and told him to bathe and go to honour the day and to return soon. The Brahmin asked his wife what exactly is to be done on this day. When she had finished the cooking, she told him it was all ready. The Brahmin offered it all to Srinathji. The dumplings were not enough, so he asked her, "Do you have any sweets at home?" She replied that she had a little jaggery left. She brought it over to him. The Brahmin sat and lost himself meditating on Srinathji's form. He imagined him wearing the new garments as he had just seen before he left. Srinathji's form was inside his heart, and he said to him, "O Maharaj, my wife has made these preparations with a worldly mindset. However, please do accept them for yourself." The Brahmin most lovingly placed them before Srinathji. Seeing the intensity of his love, Srinathji came all the way from Sri Giriraj to Bengal and accepted the dumpling and the jaggery. So we will take rest from the reading right now and continue tomorrow with this same Varta of the Bengal from Bengal. So Vaishnavan ko Jai Shri Krishna, Shri Gosaiji Paramadayalu ki Jai. Jai Jai Shri Radhe.